How to make a podcast Part 1, Planning and Preparation.
Hello and welcome to Videojug. I'm Stuart Headlam. Now, making a good podcast is actually a two-part process. The second part is, as you might expect, the recording, editing and publishing of your opus. But it's actually the first part, the planning and preparation, that's the most important and deserves the majority of your time. It's much like painting a wall, only with sound. As tempting as it may be to sit down in front of your computer and hit play and record, this approach can lead to disaster. Obviously, radio and podcasting share a lot of the same skills, and even the most casual and impromptu sounding radio show is actually quite meticulously planned. I spoke to professional broadcasters and podcasters, Nigel Mitchell and Danny Kelly, to find out how they make their shows sound so good.
The trick is to not try and do too much, but also to make sure you've got enough that people don't become bored. They need to know that if this particular thing isn't floating their boat, that something else will be along in a few minutes' time. I mean, that's part of the furniture, again, that you learn from traditional broadcasting, a menu at the top so that people will know that if you're not interested in footballer X or story Y, don't worry, because funny thing Z will be along any minute now.
You sometimes hear a lot of people on the radio talking about absolutely nothing. And it has no relevance to the audience whatsoever, or no relevance to life. It's just drivel, and you sometimes end up shouting at the radio going, "Shut up! Why are you saying that?" A lot of the stuff that we've learned over the years is that the things that audiences are interested in, or your audience in particular, is stuff that maybe you've done, you've experienced, life experience, that maybe they've shared a similar kind of thing. You know, if you go, "Oh, I was at the bus the other day when this happened," there's a chance that someone out there listening will have experienced exactly the same thing. And if you've made that connection with one person, chances are you made that connection with quite a few people who are listening.
Once you get going, like live radio and live television, where it goes is often down to the other people who are contributing, whether they be in the studio in your face or on telephones or through emails. But you need to have some kind of structure to start out with. Also, it helps if you've got it, once you get it going, if you have furniture. People like to feel, that's the theme music, I know I'm in the right place. Okay, they've talked about this for a while, there's a stab, an interstitial, a piece of music that breaks the thing up. I know now that I can take a deep breath and we may come back to something else. It's, these are the furniture or the road signs that make the listening experience better for people.
Try and keep everything down to 45 seconds if you can. Apparently, someone somewhere has spent an awful lot of money researching the fact that people in general have a 45-second attention span. How long have I been talking for? I've still got some time. Okay. And apparently, if you keep it to 45 seconds, 9 times out of 10, if you hit that gag, if you hit the high point of your link within the 45 seconds, it's perfect. If you go over 45 seconds, people start to lose concentration on what you're saying and they drift off and all that. And the funniest thing that you could be saying might be lost.
You've got to try and think about things and talk about things in such a way that they won't go out of date. You know, you might record the podcast on a Monday morning. People download it, get it, have it on Thursday, and I understand, for instance, my own podcast is very popular with people because it's the right length. 44. We chose 45 minutes because it happened to be the length of a half of football, but it's also a very good time for people who are walking dogs. And so on Thursday, they're walking their dog out on some common or other, some blasted heath, and they're hearing about things that may have already happened. You've got to be real careful when planning. The topics you choose are going to have a life longer than the first day of the podcast.
Before each show, I normally sit down with my producer and type up stuff to include on the show. This includes regular features and other stuff that's happened to us this week. The new series of Big Brother just started when this show was going out on air. So I've written here, good to see the next batch of TV presenters enter the Big Brother house last night. We talked for a little while about that, so it's just a strand. None of it's scripted, but just sort of something to get the ball rolling in a conversation.
I don't have a script. I don't think podcasts by and large have scripts. They tend to be people talking about subjects in which they're passionate about, and that works best if people are improvising, arguing, discussing.
With the whole podcast thing, if you're going to do a podcast, just make sure it's your best stuff. You never know who might be listening, and that dream job might just be around the corner.
In summary then, don't waffle. Stick to subjects your audience will relate to. Use stings and jingles to mark the end of one section and the start of another. Keep jokes and stories to around 45 seconds, but don't end a discussion or argument prematurely. Try and pick subjects that aren't too topical. Your podcast may not be listened to until sometime after current events. Plan your podcast and create a running order, but don't feel you have to stick to a script. Put a menu that tells people what's coming up in your podcast at the start. Always give a podcast your all, as you never know who's listening. Done.